Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us this morning. I hope your morning has been great so far. And we have a great panel of Sotheby's agents. And also we have Brad Nelson, the Chief Marketing Officer for Sotheby's International Realty. It is with great pleasure that I introduce to you the panel and Brad. Brad is someone that is very dear to my heart. He was one of my first hires part-time because I couldn't afford him full-time when we started and launched Sotheby's way back in the day, maybe 10 years ago. And nothing in life has given me more pleasure than to see how he has continued to evolve and grow within our industry, become an industry leader, and really shine everywhere he's gone. And now he's the Chief Marketing Officer. I don't think it gets better than that. So I am very happy and proud, kind of as his mom, to introduce Brad Nelson. We also have Christy and Jonathan and Joe with us, and I'll let Brad introduce them to you. So this should be a great panel and a great webinar. I know everybody's webinared out, but I think on each webinar, we learn something different. So I'm really delighted to be able to bring this great panel to you, and I hope that you take something away from it. So here we go. Thank you, Brad, for doing this for us.
Yeah. It is absolutely my pleasure, and good morning to everyone at One Sotheby's International Realty. I was not expecting that introduction from Mayi, who has been one of my mentors and a constant support of inspiration and just good energy in my life. And so thankfully I managed to not tear up during that introduction. But I can say with certainty that everyone at One Sotheby's International Realty is clearly very fortunate to have the benefit of Mayi and Daniel's leadership. Today we have something that I just think is incredibly important, which is a conversation about how we can be using this very bizarre time to prepare ourselves for success and to build a pipeline of opportunity as we start to emerge from the coronavirus situation. And I feel very thankful to have three extraordinary colleagues and friends on the line here today. So we have Christy Ambrosetti from Sotheby's International Realty on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. We have Joe Chillick from Sotheby's International Realty in Los Angeles. And we have Jonathan Spears of Scenic Sotheby's International Realty on the Panhandle in Florida. And I'll let Christy, Joe, and Jonathan introduce themselves in just a moment, but what makes each three of these agents uniquely qualified to share their perspective with everyone today is they have experienced explosive growth in their personal business in the last 2 to 3 years. They have seen double-digit increases. They've set new records in their marketplaces. And so we really want to talk about how they've built their business, how they've achieved the momentum that they were going into the situation with, and then how they're spending their time today to ensure that momentum continues when it's safe to conduct business in more traditional formats. So with that, Christy, I'm going to start with you. If you could just introduce yourself to the audience and maybe explain a little bit about how long you've been selling real estate, so forth and so on.
Sure. So hello, everybody. Brad and Mayi, thank you so much for having me be a part of this panel. What a great opportunity to connect with you all in sunny Florida. So again, my name is Christy. I am in New York City. I handle both Manhattan and a bit of Brooklyn in the Upper East Side office. I've been in the industry since now going on 8.5 years. And I started in a supporting role. I was formerly a Broadway performer, touring for many years, and had a great opportunity to dip my toes into real estate. And once I did, I really never looked back.
Awesome. And Jonathan, could we ask the same of you?
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Jonathan Spears. I work at Scenic Sotheby's International Realty. I'm in the Panhandle of Florida. Thankful to be here. And I've been in the business for about 10 years. Started in 2010. I got a license at the age of 18. And I've been thankful to be with Sotheby's International Realty for the last 5 years.
Awesome. And heading over to Los Angeles, where you've joined us very early in the morning. Thank you, Joe.
Hi there, Joe Chilich from Los Angeles. I started my team with Sotheby's 2 years ago, but I've been with the company for 16 years. And we sell on the west side of Los Angeles, so Beverly Hills, Hollywood Hills, Santa Monica, Pacific Palisades, Brentwood, those neighborhoods.
Awesome. So as I mentioned to everyone on the call, all three of these agents were heading into the situation with just incredible momentum in their business. And I want to start with a little bit of, how they were building that momentum. How were they doubling their sales production? How are they hitting those new personal records? And Joe, so you mentioned you were with the company for 16 years, most of that time on the management side, and then you decided to transition into sales. Can you tell us, 2 years ago, you were starting your team, you were starting at a blank slate, $0 in production, and then getting to 30 and 40 million in annual sales. What was your approach in how you started your sales business?
So the first thing I did was something that I always encourage my agents to do, and that was write a business plan. So I did that. And in doing that, I identified 5 buckets of potential clients that I was going to systematically go after. And those were, for me, professional networking, attorneys, because I was an attorney, charities in the nonprofit world, and sphere of influence, which everybody, of course, has, and then also other agents. And they've been a huge source of my business.
Awesome. So when you were building your business, you really, as part of your business plan, segmented different groups of contacts and then had, networking plans and goals as to how you wanted to build those relationships.
Yeah, exactly. Each one of the buckets that I identified, I would have a business plan for how I was going to, capture that business.
Amazing. So Jonathan, I'd like to ask you a similar question. So you've been in the business 10 years, you've been at Sotheby's International Realty for 5. I think you're the youngest agent in the history of the country to, hit $100 million in sales, and I know you've surpassed that since. But when you were joining Sotheby's International Realty and looking to grow your business, what was your strategy?
So very much like Joe, I think being intentional about who you're targeting, not only with the tools that the brand offers, but also the legacy. And so when I started in the business in 2010, it was an oil spill year, which was devastating for our Gulf Coast. And I was able to really leverage a work ethic that I don't know that I would have had otherwise. And so coming into Sotheby's, I wanted to make sure that I was able to take the tools to target the luxury end of the market, both with speculative home builders as well as investors that do frequent transactions. And that's how I was able to build my business at the time, to even get my foot in the door with Sotheby's. So when I had that card and that beautiful blue sign that went into the front yard of all my listings, I remember all my clients calling me and congratulating me. And I was able to leverage that momentum to do more deals.
I love that. And, your focus on home builders and investors, clients that were likely to transact with you more than once every 5 to 7 years was, clearly a wise strategy that gave momentum. What elements of the Sotheby's International Realty marketing platform did you find resonated most with home builders and investors?
Right. So when Sotheby's entered our marketplace in 2014, they came with a splash because it was really the only global marketing platform that we had. And so when I started strategically targeting speculative home builders, I knew that as I entered that arena, I wanted to make sure that I could represent them at the highest level. And so the global marketing aspect paired with the regional marketing from other Sotheby's offices and feeder markets, just like Joe said, he targeted other agents. We targeted affiliates, whether it was from Briggs Freeman in Dallas or Atlanta Fine Homes, to really leverage inventory in our area to a wider audience. And that's what widely appealed to those home builders.
I love that. So really understanding what are your core referral markets of potential buyers, and then including marketing opportunities on your pitches to demonstrate, how you're getting in front of that group. That's amazing.
Absolutely.
So, Christy, turning to you, I know that so you transitioned from Broadway to supporting a top agent, and then going out on your own. So, same question as Joe. You're starting a new role. You're starting at $0 in production. How did you approach building your business and even approach starting your day?
Well, I actually, at the time, because I was so used to maintaining a regular work schedule, I continued with that. Even when I felt that there wasn't a ton on my plate, I would show up to the office at the same time. I'd sit down, I'd give myself tasks. And like both Joe and Jonathan, I also really leveraged the brand when I was going out into the world. And I just did my best to tell everyone that first and foremost, I led with Sotheby's. And they said, what do you do? I say, I work at Sotheby's. And, typically we get a response such as, wow, good for you. So as I started to build that confidence and respect from people and create a name for myself, it was helpful. And beyond that, I'm a big volume broker. I say yes to everything. When I was building, I would raise my hand and go show something for someone or partner. I still do a ton of a la carte partnering. And I'm all about servicing the client and showing them that I will provide a fantastic service and a great experience. And then from that, all of that volume at all price points started to turn into more repeat business. And then those clients were referring other clients. I also worked very hard when I traveled quite a bit, and I still do. When I visit another market, I always make it a point to stop into a Sotheby's office. That was really part of my business plan. And so I created strategic alliances, one of whom is on the call here with Jonathan. We do a lot of business together and we check in with each other often. So that's something that even now I'm doing, which has been incredibly helpful to build and grow and send business.
I love that. And your commitment to building a routine, keeping a schedule, even when you felt that there wasn't much work to do, obviously served you really well. Christy, I'll just ask you to kind of continue that thread of conversation. So we're all working from home now, and we can't necessarily go out and show property the same way we did a few weeks ago. So can you share with everyone, what does your structure look like today? What does your routine look like? And what business are you able to do outside of the city?
So I have a 10-month-old daughter. So I'd say one of the greatest joys of this pandemic has been that I am able to spend time with her. But I would say on the same thread, it's also a challenge because I'm with her all the time. So for me, I'm up really early in the morning between 5:30 and 6, and I actually have a real morning with her, which is just so wonderful. And then as soon as I put her down for that morning nap, I'm hopping on calls immediately. And I have a list of people that I'm trying to reach out to. Those are current clients, sellers, buyers, but also I went back through our system and looked at all of my past transactions. And I've been very strategically pinging people, whether it's over text or a phone call or Zoom. Then I come back and I have some more family time, and I've actually been taking calls with Sailor on my arm, and that's been also a fascinating challenge, beautiful challenge, and actually a really human element to what I'm doing that I never did before. And then in the afternoon, I think, as I heard Mayi say, there are lots of webinars and things. Every single day I'm on a different webinar. I always pick up something. I'm typically multitasking while I'm doing it, so that's also a brand new, beautiful gift. But I am really creating a dialogue with past clients, current clients, other people in ways that, just providing support that I'm not necessarily getting a monetary return on it. It's actually just a human connection, and that has been so rewarding because so much, business is coming out of that.
Right. And so, Christy, I think that was so insightful. So you said, hey, I knew that I needed to touch base with clients. So, you pulled a list from your office's accounting system, or for those of you in Florida, from the MLS, of all your deals in the last 5 years, and you use that as your basis of clients that you wanted to call. How, when you're speaking with a client and you're checking in on them personally, and then real estate comes up, how are you keeping track of, what those opportunities are for when it's safe to show property again?
Great question, Brad. So I have, as you mentioned, I put everything in a spreadsheet, and I have a small team. So we sort of each give ourselves tasks and little points of action on that. That was fairly easy to assemble. It took a little bit of time, but now that we're going, it's great. I have little, action items on each individual based on the conversation. Some people say, we're really getting afraid to be in Manhattan. I think we're actually really loving being in Larchmont. Ping. That's when I think, okay, well, I'm going to reach out to, my partner in Larchmont. So we have these little action items where inevitably we'd start talking about life and how are people and are they healthy? And it always goes back to this idea of home, always. So I'm keeping a very strategic tracking system based on each conversation. And then we set a little calendar reminder. And if I hear something, if I see an article, I'm sending them an article. If I hear a new stat from a market phone call or Zoom call, I'm just pinging them and sending them things. Just finding ways to connect that's relevant and supportive. Again, just converting all of this information that we're receiving and being the provider of information. It's been really helpful.
I love that. And Jonathan, I know this is something that you've been spending a lot of time on as well, reaching out to past clients, just checking in on them personally. I've spoken with some agents that are intimidated by that process, that think, oh, I don't want to come across as having commission breath or being too salesy in this moment in time. Can you tell us, how are you structuring those conversations, and how many are you making every day?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the biggest thing is really being willing to think about the value that you bring to the table when you start making those calls. And I love that Christy said that there's a human element to it, because naturally when we're prospecting, we want to create relationships, and that's the ultimate goal. In this time frame where volatility is so high and you don't really know the situation that your customer's in, I think for me in a second home market, being intentional about the way that I leverage my time and the way that we're talking to these customers is so important. So one way that I've been able to do that is reaching out to folks, I'm here in a second home market, and just ask them, have you had anybody that's been able to check on your home lately? Coming to the table with a lot of empathy and understanding that they're not able to get here. The interstate I-10, which is a major corridor for our drive-in market, has checkpoints and security checkpoints for folks that are not state residents. And so for me, it's really important to be able to reach out to our customer base and make sure that they know that we're their eyes and ears here at the beach.
I love that. And, one of the things that, Joe, we were talking about, so Christy and Jonathan, they're obviously spending a lot of time talking to past clients. They're spending a lot of time on Zoom. I know we're all becoming more comfortable with video chat than we've ever been in our lives. I know you're really focusing on going and building deeper relationships during this time. Could you share with everyone what your approach has been?
Sure, yeah. So one of the things that I've been doing is I've been doing Zoom calls. While I've been doing them with other agents, I've actually been doing them with other business professionals. And so I've gotten groups together where it's a CPA, a business manager, a tax attorney, bankruptcy attorney, various fields, insurance person. And I've been providing the residential real estate expertise on those calls. And then they report back to their clients about the information that I provided, and I can report back to my clients on the information that they've provided. And I found it to be hugely informative and really a good use of my time. And I've formed new relationships, new referral partners through that process. And I'm very excited about that, coming out of the pandemic.
So I think this is just such a smart idea. So think about the attorneys that you regularly do business with. Think about wealth advisors at private banks. Think about your, other professional referral sources, and perhaps organizing, a roundtable discussion to share what everyone is seeing within their industry can really gain some great insights on what's going on with mortgage lending. And Joe, I know that you had a particularly good success with a divorce attorney. Can you explain what you learned from that experience?
Well, I unfortunately, I think one of the side effects of the pandemic will be people will realize that perhaps their house doesn't work for them and perhaps their spouse doesn't work for them. So I think coming out of this, we're going to be quite busy for both of those reasons. And so this is a new relationship, and she had a past relationship with another top agent in Los Angeles, but she said she really liked what I was bringing to the table. And so she said that I'm going to be her go-to person moving forward. So I was really excited about that opportunity.
I love that. And, one of the things that, Jonathan will speak about in a moment is, an aspiration to arrive at an advisor relationship with your clients, that you want to get into the space where you're that professional advisor. And I love that, Joe. I mean, you're showing up to relationships, not asking for anything, but providing perspective, providing data points, et cetera. And, you've clearly been willing to do that during this time. And there are some other agents that are not. Perhaps they're watching a little bit too much Tiger King on Netflix, and that's creating an opportunity for you now.
Yeah, I've been working harder than ever.
I know.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Christy, I'm going to go back to you. So I know that our efforts around contacting past clients is a human connection first, and showing up with great empathy. I also want to talk about, what have your lead generation efforts looked like in this time? How are you trying to, plant seeds today that will lead to a pipeline when you and I both have the opportunity to return to our homes in the great city of New York?
Great question, Brad. So I am actually just, there's been one very fascinating way that I sort of unexpected, and then I'm taking this yoga class on Zoom. And this is new for me. I've, always taken care of myself, but this is the ultimate, if you don't have time, take a Zoom class. And interestingly, I have been connecting with people. There's a connection sort of after the class, and then I've been inviting other clients to take it with me, and friends, and sort of building this sense of community that is really new. As far as lead generating, I am, just availing myself, just as Jonathan has said, to be the advisor and to, continue to support and reach out to those in scenarios where they might be thinking about a change, and just supporting them and saying, well, I have a partner here, I have a partner there, in other markets, and really just tapping to all of those people in whatever form of communication is best for them, whether that's a text, whether that's a phone call or a Zoom call. I've been really proactively reaching out in that way, and then just making note of if they want to sell in the future. It's really a long play for me. It's not a quick get fix that we're going to list something soon. It's the moment that you hear someone actually express interest in something like this, keeping them on your radar and keeping them updated with the market. And as we see stats and things, getting them comfortable with their decision making is a really huge thing for me.
I love that. And it's so interesting. There is a fitness fashion brand, I guess is the only way to describe it, in New York City. It's called Bandier. And they are renowned in New York for having the best celebrity trainers teach classes, et cetera. And they've started to do a broadcast of classes for free. And, I actually ended up taking one with a few friends the other day. It was a great way for us to, all get a workout in, and then we all got a drink afterwards. So maybe those canceled each other out. But I love the concept of inviting clients to, shared experiences and deepening those relationships. Jonathan, when I asked you the same question yesterday, you really provided some great perspective on the coronavirus, and you reminded us that it wasn't a hurricane that destroyed the property that you sell, that it wasn't an oil spill that damaged the lifestyle, and that really put a lot of perspective. We still have product to sell in Florida, and that's a great thing. Can you talk about your content creation and lead generation strategy right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing Brad and I discussed here in Florida is the intrinsic value of our area has not changed. So I was telling Brad, some of the things I've been really thankful for lately are just waking up and having the sunshine and 80-degree weather, and being able to just go out and walk in my yard and see the hummingbirds that are migrating. And one thing that our customers who can't enjoy that with us at this time frame don't see is how the intrinsic lifestyle has not changed. And if anything, there's a heightened desire as they sit at home and they think about what do they want their lives to look like, post coronavirus when it's safe to go out, our ability to showcase that lifestyle has never been better. And so we've been investing very heavily in not only video content of our area, but specifically lifestyle. And what does our area have to offer that somebody may not be able to currently experience? And ultimately, the intrinsic value is so high, they want to experience.
I think that's great advice. And, I think Mayi, you're probably doing a better job of this than anyone I know. You are demonstrating the wonderful lifestyle of South Florida on your Instagram page every day. I'm in upstate New York like Christy, and it snowed here yesterday. And every time I see the sunset from your balcony, I'm just like, why didn't I move to Florida? I wish I was quarantining there. So I think that's, you're doing the same strategy Jonathan is, and everyone at One Sotheby's International Realty represents such a beautiful part of the world that we all have that opportunity. So it's interesting. I think the common theme of lead generation for, these three top agents has really been centered in, Zoom calls, deepening personal relationships, talking with past clients and sphere of influence, et cetera. And clearly that has led to business opportunities of clients that, perhaps they need a different home, they want a bigger home, they want to sell a home, so forth and so on. And so I want to transition our conversation to how you as agents are adapting to, giving listing presentations in a virtual environment. And Joe, I'm not going to give away the specifics, but Joe recently won the highest price point listing in his career, an extraordinary, very impressive property. And Joe, you couldn't do that in the typical way. It was in a virtual format. So could you share with everyone how you prepared for that appointment in a virtual world and what you learned from that experience?
Yeah, it's interesting that during this pandemic, I had the highest price listing appointment of my career, and I've submitted the highest price offer of my career, and both were the same price, $65 million. So neither one has resulted in a commission yet, but certainly exciting to be working in a price point that I want to, elevate my game to. So one of the things that I really did was I dove into the preparation process. One of the differences between doing a virtual listing presentation and doing one in person is you don't get to see the property with the client, which you do when you're on a traditional listing appointment. So you need to make sure that you have all the information in advance so that you're not surprised by something, because a client's version of remodeled can be very different than yours and mine. Certainly had clients before say, oh yeah, we have a beautifully remodeled home, and you get there and you think, oh my goodness, it needs to be torn down. So one of the things that I've been asking clients to do is share photos of the property with me. If they've made renovations since it sold last, take a picture of it, text it to me so that I know what we're talking about, because one of the things clients care most about is the value of their property. And if I'm going to assess it virtually, I need to know what we're talking about. So that's been hugely important. And then customizing the materials to the property has been big. And you can do that with images of the property. One of the things that I just have started doing is I can take a picture of their living room and then make it my background on Zoom. So it looks like I'm sitting there with them in their living room. And it's just it's kind of a hokey thing to do, but it actually, it makes it seem like you're going the extra mile to really make it a comfortable process. And then you just need to make sure that they're comfortable with the technology that you're going to use and have a backup plan, practice for sure. I never really used, Zoom technology before, or Microsoft Teams, but now I've had to practice it and make sure that my clients are comfortable with it. And then I FedEx them a hard copy as well, number the pages so that, if we need to, we can go through it, the old-fashioned way.
I think that's some really good advice. And Christy, I know that you've had some opportunity to do Zoom listing presentations as well. They've been a little bit, more off the cuff in your words. What adaptations for your virtual listing presentations have you made after the first one or two?
Sure. So I had some beautiful challenges also with Zoom. I think one of the really great benefits of Zoom is that you can tell exactly where someone's focus and attention is, and if they're distracted. We're all used to sitting in a room typically, and some people use the projection, some people use the printout. For me, I listen a lot, but then I go to the stats. That's my go-to. It was really a fun adventure when I decided that I didn't have those stats completely memorized. So the second time around, I made myself a little cheat sheet, or I held up a little, piece of paper and pointed to a great chart that we all use, I'm sure. So it was sort of a fun stumbling, again, just real. I think the clients and people on calls have been enjoying this human aspect in the personal life as we sort of integrate that. One time I had Sailor just making her a little appearance there. It was a fun little chuckle, not what I'm used to. So just kind of off the cuff, thinking next time, getting myself in a better setting, maybe having a little prop. Each time I've learned a little bit more.
I love that. And just for everyone else's benefit, so if there are statistics, maybe it's how many languages our website is translated into, how many countries Sotheby's International Realty is represented on, et cetera. How many people came to our website last year? The answer is 34 million. If you don't have all of those details memorized, using some Post-it notes, you can actually put them on the side of your computer screen. Just make sure that you don't cover up your camera. And you can pull those off as you get your key points in that you really want to communicate with clients. And Jonathan, I know that you recently had an instance where someone you had never met before asked about listing their home and refused to get on Zoom with you. They weren't comfortable meeting someone on Zoom for the first time. So how did you handle that?
Yeah, correct. That was a really interesting one. And it was amazing because they responded to a direct mail brochure that I had sent them, providing valuable information about sales in their area. They had reached out to me and were interested in me walking through their property. They could not join me. They were in another state. And when I asked for them to hop on a Zoom call with me, they sort of put their hands up and said, "What's Zoom?" And when I started to explain to them, it's like FaceTime, they said, "Hey, look, I'm not up for that. Let's just do a traditional phone call." And one really successful way that I was able to connect with them is by, like Joe said, FedExing a physical document that's a very curated listing presentation over to them. People right now are so used to picking up Amazon packages for everything from their groceries to their toilet paper, hopefully. And, a listing presentation being delivered by hand from UPS or FedEx was really impactful for him. And so we were able to go through it together. I also had a set of the same exact presentation that I sent him with me. So I was able to answer all of his questions and didn't have necessarily the same pressure that Christy had being on camera.
And I think that really ties back to Joe's point as well, which is a backup plan is really, really important when those opportunities present themselves. And clearly you were prepared for that. So one thing I just want to share with those in the audience, we do have a question and answer functionality in GoToMeeting. So we have 2 more prepared questions for our panelists, but if there's anything that you'd like to ask Christy, Joe, Jonathan, Mayi, myself, please feel free to type those into the question and answer section, and we'll get to those in just a few minutes. So the next kind of speed round, we have 2 last questions, and I'll ask them to each of you. And Mayi, you're going to be a little on the cuff here because I didn't send you the question in advance, but I'm going to include you on these next 2 as well. Okay. So first and foremost, we're all figuring out how to, adapt with a lot of uncertainty. Christy, we'll start with you. How are you staying positive? How are you keeping yourself up right now?
Well, look, it's hard. We're all in this together. We're all experiencing the exact same thing at the same time. For me, it's to be in the moment, to not get too far ahead of myself and remember that I'm safe, I'm healthy. Most everyone that I know is in that place, and really showing that this is how I behave in a crisis, because I think it's a really defining factor for people. People are attracted to positivity. They don't want to call you and be doom and gloom. You can be real with them, but I think that, again, it's just about supporting other people for no other reason than just to connect and support and be a real person in this very unprecedented life moment.
Solid advice. Joe, same question for you. How are you staying positive right now?
So I have a 3-year-old and a 7-year-old and a new puppy. I've been very challenged at home. But what I did was I made 4 categories of goals. I've always had career goals, but I made these 4 categories for the time that we're sheltering in place. And the first is home improvement projects. So I made a list, and then I made career goal lists. I made family goals, such as teaching my son how to ride a bike. And then I have fitness goals, which I've failed miserably at to this point. But it's actually been really great to check things off a list and feeling like I'm accomplishing things each day.
Awesome. Jonathan, what about you? How are you staying positive right now?
Well, I love both what Christy and Joe said in terms of exemplifying leadership. I've really been focused on trying to surround myself with members throughout our Sotheby's International Realty Network who are in the same mindset, both with their business as well as their family life. And so I've got a 2-year-old, much like these guys. We've got young children in our house, and just spending as much time with her as I possibly can, listening to every sentence. My wife and I have actually been writing down everything she says, which, before we were, going at such a rapid pace that we may not have paid attention to those little details. So I think being appreciative in those moments is so important.
I love that. I don't have children of my own, but I am the world's worst house guest. So some friends invited me for a weekend, and that was 6 weeks ago. A few of us are still living with them in their home.
Wow.
Oops. Did we lose Brad?
We've lost you briefly, Brad.
Self-motivated.
There we
You're
go.
back.
Sorry, Brad, we lost you for a second.
Yeah, we lost you.
Oh, sorry about that. So Mayi was asking the same question. How are you staying positive right now?
I'm trying to get out into the fresh air as much as I can. I was really scared at first, but now I've started taking morning walks, and that's really been really great for my spirit. I'm doing a lot of Audible books. Late at night, I turn off the news. I don't want to hear anything more about the news. And I actually, one of my colleagues recommended a book that I had read years ago, and I'm doing it on Audible now, which is Who Moved My Cheese? Or something like that. I think the name is that, by Spencer. And it's really, the cheese represents happiness and satisfaction. And it's really about the inevitable, change is inevitable. And so it helps you. So I listened to that. Believe it or not, this morning on my walk, I was listening to Louise Hayes and talking about gratitude, and really, as Christy said, being grateful for all the things that we have and not looking at the things that we don't. And I have my moments when I worry about the market, and I worry about where are we really headed and what's the real ramification of all this that's going on. But I believe that we are part of this great nation, and we will, as a country and as people, will unite and will come out of this, and we will be stronger, and we will work better. We won't take so many things for granted as we did before. So I really go within a lot. And, then I also read Ray Dalio's book, which my son gave me, which is, we did a corporate retreat. And that book is called Principles. It's a really thick book, but I think there will be opportunities. There's always opportunities in crises. So I think that, we look at technology, look at the technology. I mean, Zoom, I never knew how to use any of this. And now I'm on it all day. I forget, I'm zoomed out kind of thinking about what my next meeting is going to be. I'm working harder than ever. That's why I'm like in the morning, I'm like, okay, I have to take some time for myself, because sometimes it's 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, and I'm still sitting here, or 7 or 8, whatever time. I'm baking. That makes me happy. And I'm cooking. So sometimes I follow Brad, who's a foodie too, and I'm doing like master class which at night makes me really happy. I took a Bobbi Brown makeup class, and I'm going to do the Thomas Keller class tonight on how to cook scrambled eggs. So just staying positive, and I think we're going to get through this, and I think we're going to be really stronger as a nation, as people, as families, and there will be a lot of good eventually. And now we just pray for all the people that are in the front lines, risking their lives for us, and from the guy that's cleaning the floors in the bathroom to the doctor that's treating that patient. And so, we're grateful. So just coming out of a place of gratitude is always a good place to start.
I love that. Very, very solid and true advice. So final question before we open it up for Q&A, and Christy, I'll start with you again. Everyone on this panel, Mayi excluded, has, been building over the last 2 to 5 years in a big way. If you could go back and talk to yourself, Jonathan, when you joined Sotheby's International Realty, Christy, when you went out on your own and started your own practice, Joe, when you jumped into sales, and give that younger version of yourself one piece of advice, something now that you wish you had known then, what would it be?
That's a good question.
All right, Christy, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I think that I would tell myself that it is nonstop, and that the work-life balance is a challenge, and that's okay. It's a hustle game, and it's really exciting when you're building momentum, but not to get burned out and to take care of yourself. And just as Mayi said, we're coming to a space where the market is, challenging, but people will still buy and sell, and we have to just transact, and we have to roll up our sleeves a little harder and get those deals done, but we will do it, and we will support people because they will continue to transact. So just understanding that tempo and that pace would have been good advice for myself.
Yeah, the perspective and the context that you have today. So Joe, same question to yourself. 2 years into a sales team, what do you wish you'd known 2 years ago?
I think it's how valuable our time is, and that's something that's really highlighted by what we're going through right now. And so I tell myself to recover as quickly as possible from negative experiences and negative people. And the analogy that many of you have heard is that, if someone stole $30 from you and you had $86,400, would you throw away the other $86,370? And no, of course you wouldn't. So then don't let a negative 30 seconds throw away all the other seconds left in the day. And I had a hard time with that early on, was, having a negative experience and really letting it bother me for at least a day, if not more. And now I really just focus on trying to move past it as quickly as possible and getting to being productive, because that's really all we can control.
Well said. Well said. Jonathan, same question for you.
Yeah, if I could go back and talk to my younger self, I think I would lean more into a culture of collaboration, which I think resonates throughout Sotheby's International Realty. I know one sir, every time I visit their offices, they are the most welcoming family, and that's the only way I can describe them. For me, understanding that my largest customer base is likely co-broker agents, it's such a great time to reach out to those in our community and see who may be in need. But looking back at my younger self, I wish I would have started that sooner and had that mentality earlier in my career.
I love that. Other agents are not necessarily always competitors, but they're these colleagues, and having that community mindset can really make us successful. So, and Mayi, same question to you. I don't know that there's anyone who's accomplished more in the history of Miami real estate than you are. Any advice to yourself when you were launching One Sotheby's International Realty a decade ago?
I think along the lines of what Joe said, just, enjoy the moment. Know that everything is transient. It's going to pass. Sometimes the agents call me and say, oh my God, this deal isn't going to close. What do I do? I'm like, just relax. It's going to be okay. Take a deep breath. So just, to continue to be patient and understand that, our business is a difficult one at times, and we go up and down. Our emotions are up and down because you think you're going to get this deal to the closing table, and then you think it's falling apart. And so just, I think, now I take things with a different, I look at things differently, and I just know that everything's going to be okay. So I wish I would have known that a long time ago. Would have avoided like my blood pressure going up and my face turning red and all that crazy thing, all those crazy things. But yeah, I just think just be cool. Everything always works out as it should. And you know, whether it's a deal that we got to the closing table or anything, or listing that we're trying to get, whatever it is. So
I love that.
patient.
So I think we have about 10 minutes left. Natalie, do we have any questions from the audience for any of our panelists?
We do. We have several. The first one is for Joe. We have an agent, Tanya, asking, can Joe share how he makes the photo, like for the living room photo, as his background in Zoom?
Sure. So Zoom has virtual backgrounds. So if you just, and you can Google, how to make a Zoom virtual background, but basically you just have the photo on your computer, and then you can choose any photo you want to be the virtual background. Zoom also has some stock images in there, but everybody's seen those by now. You'll see like people with the San Francisco, a skyline behind you or things like that. But yeah, so you can just go into Zoom and choose virtual backgrounds, or Google it and you'll see a tutorial on how to do it.
Thank you. Okay, the next one is, what's the best answer to give to
Great,
a
and Natalie,
buyer
maybe we can.
who? Yes. Hello?
Oh, sorry.
No, no worries. What's the best answer to give to a buyer who makes an unrealistic offer and is confident the price will fall more? Who would like
Jonathan,
to take that
do you
one?
want to tackle that one?
Yeah, absolutely. This is one I've been experiencing quite a bit, actually. One thing that I've learned is that time may be the asset on our side in that regard. A lot of times when I represent both buyers and sellers with unrealistic expectations, giving them a little bit of breathing room has been key. I would say don't pretend like you have a crystal ball, because we can't predict the market, whether it's going up or it's going down. And so when a client says, hey, this is my belief, there's no sense in arguing with it because there's really no rationale to it. So for me, being able to be empathetic towards their belief and then also trying to guide them with statistics that I already know in the market is the absolute best strategy against somebody who may not want to pay what a seller's willing to take.
Okay, thank you. The next one is, how do you see change for the future of real estate post-COVID-19?
Christy, do you want to tackle this one?
Sure. I think so many things are going to change. For us, we've integrated virtual tours to our listings. I know that has always been a tool for us, but even more so now, that seems like a very legitimate step in reviewing a property. And we'll have to do a little bit more vetting from the outset. I think that Zoom is a fascinating tool that we will probably see much more of. In fact, I'm finding that people even prefer to see you rather than just be on the phone. So I wonder if that will be a part of our business practice moving forward, even when we're just in the office on phone calls. I think that for my small team, we've done a lot of phone calls and connecting during the day when we didn't before. It just seems like a time in general, whether it be personal or business, that we're reconnecting with people in ways, and honestly, in people I've never spoken to, friends from college to family members. And I really think that is setting such a nice precedent for the industry moving forward in a way that we've never seen, because it's so relationship driven. We get deals done with brokers, we get deals done with buyers and sellers. There's such a different way to connect, especially when we're negotiating, when you can actually see someone. So for me to go from the phone to seeing someone when I'm talking through a seller about working with an offer, it's very impactful and it's very different, and I like it a lot.
I think that's great, Christy. And one thing I'll just share with the audience as well, our website traffic at sothebysrealty.com, the number of consumers searching for properties with Matterport virtual reality content and the number of consumers searching for listings with video content is absolutely skyrocketing. 3-digit percentage growth year over year for those search queries. So to the extent when it's safe to do so, again, if you have listings, making sure that you have Matterport VR content or video content, consumers are definitely looking for that type of information. Natalie, next question.
Okay, the next one is, have any of you used social media as a successful lead generation tool? And can you share what techniques have been the most rewarding for you?
So Jonathan, I know you've got some good wins here. Do you want to tackle this one?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to. Yeah, social media is an incredible tool, not only to leverage the lifestyle that we talked about earlier, like watching Mayi sunset from her balcony, but also just remaining connected. So for me, I leverage Instagram stories quite a bit, and it not only allows me to broadcast new listings, but also the Coming Soon program that we pride ourselves on, which is really a 14-day period prior to putting a property on the open MLS, where we've been able to showcase video content and generate buyer leads prior to listing, as well as staying in touch with our co-broker community. So a lot of the market leaders and I and my network throughout Sotheby's International Realty, we stay in touch specifically on our social media platforms, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, even TikTok, which has been very popular lately. So absolutely continue to leverage that as a lead generation source.
Terrific.
Okay, there is a question specifically for Mayi. Mayi, buyers are buyers are saying that prices will go down. So why try to buy now? What are your thoughts about this?
It's so difficult right now to try to have a crystal ball and say there's so many outside things that are out of our control that we really don't know, with regards to, sometimes I hear, we're going to get all of these New York buyers here and all these buyers from Chicago soon. They want to be in the sunshine. And, are we preparing? Of course we're preparing, but it's really difficult it's a difficult question to answer because I don't really know the answer. I feel that where we are geographically in South Florida, eventually, whether it's now or perhaps the first quarter of 2021, we will see additional demand for single family homes in South Florida. And I think along with that, with certain management companies that will arise, I know that we're in the process of building a management company. We can service those single family homes. And if God forbid there's another pandemic, we have, there's places for people to go where there's nice sunshine and you're in a home and you're not cooped up in an apartment somewhere. So I'm kind of bullish on first quarter of, on 2021. And I think that, but I think between now and the end of year, there's still a lot of uncertainty as, is there going to be another wave in the fall? Are we going to, as individuals, follow the CDC guidelines where we adhere to the social distancing that's necessary? And I know that we as a company are taking a lot of measures to ensure that our offices are safe and we follow the protocols that are necessary to ensure that our staff and we won't open until then. And when we do, I have to tell you, this has worked so well. We service from here all the way down to Melbourne, which is about 2.5, 3 hours away. And I've been in more contact with the agents and the staff there than I have in the past. So I love this new way of connecting. So I hope that we can continue on that. And I hope that the buyers see the benefits of being here in Florida, wherever in Florida. It doesn't have to be South Florida. It could be anywhere.
And don't forget the great tax advantage that you have in Florida.
That's right.
I mean, I am so envious. I wish I didn't have state income tax, and I wish I didn't have New York City income tax, especially as I can't be there. So that hasn't changed either.
That's right.
So Natalie, I know we have 4 minutes left. Do we have maybe one last question?
Yes, one last question. What do you recommend for farming activities during this time? Go all out because everyone is home reading mail, or scale back till after the pandemic lifts, especially in the condo market?
So maybe I'll try to tackle this one, and that is, you know, I do think on farming activities, if you're thinking of direct mail, especially, you know, people are at home. I think there is a captive audience. You know, Jonathan had a lead from a direct mail campaign recently. You know, make sure that your information is positive. You know, you can talk about there were, you know, 100 sales last month. And that's different than saying sales fell 80%. So, you know, really framing things with a positive angle is important. And the second thing is, you know, make sure you're not going in debt. So, you know, make smart, calculated decisions, but also, you know, manage your expenses so that you're not, you know, coming out of this cycle with a huge credit card balance as well, so that you're, you know, really managing your business expenses through this time. So I'll take this opportunity just to thank Christy, Joe, and Jonathan. Obviously, you all have each accomplished tremendous things. We're proud of your affiliation with Sotheby's International Realty, and we're thankful for your time this morning. And to everyone on the call, I wish you continued good health and success and prosperity in the future. And Mayi, do you want to close us out?
Just thank you. It was a phenomenal panel. Thank you, Brad, for always bringing, you know, sharing your wisdom and all your knowledge, which is extremely deep and intense. And, you know, you always somehow figure everything out. So thank you. And thank you to the great panel. I hope that we can connect and we can refer business back and forth. And I'm very excited about that. So thank you all. I think it was a great call. And I know how busy you are, Brad. So thank you for making the time for us and for our agents to share, you know, all that you always bring to the table, which is incredible. Thank you.
It was our pleasure. Thanks again, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Hey.
Yay.
Hey.
Nice job,
Awesome.
everybody.
That was great.
Yeah.
Great job.
Yeah,
Awesome.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. Thank
Yeah.
you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Great.
It was
That was
fun.
great insight. Thank you. Good luck, Joe, on that listing.
Yeah, bring it home.
I'm going to visit you
Yeah.
soon. As soon as it's safe to do so.
Although I'm thinking I need to move to Miami with all your posts.
There you go.
They're fabulous.
Come visit. Come visit. All right. Well, thank you all so much. Mwah. Thanks a
Thank
lot.
you.
I really
Great day.
appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, Brad.
Thanks, Brad.
Bye, guys.
Thanks, Brad. Thanks, Mayi.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.